Have you ever been so hooked on a story that you completely lost track of time? Maybe it was a movie, a book, or even just a friend sharing something wild that happened to them. But for some reason, you just had to know what happened next. That's the magic of great storytelling. It's not just about words, it's about making people feel something. And here's the thing, it's not some rare talent you're either born with or not. It's a skill that anyone can learn. And if you create content, whether it's on YouTube, social media, or even just talking to people, you need to master storytelling. Why? Because it's the difference between people forgetting you and people hanging on to every word you say. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I'm not a natural storyteller. And I get it, most people struggle with this. They ramble, they lose their audience, and their message just fades away. But today, we're going to fix that. In this video, I'm going to teach you 5 simple but insanely powerful storytelling techniques that will instantly make your stories more engaging. These are the same techniques used by the best YouTubers, speakers, and even Hollywood screenwriters. And here's the best part. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand these techniques, but you'll be able to use them right away to make your content 10x more compelling. Oh, and stick around till the end, because I've got a bonus tip that most people completely overlook. But once you start using it, your stories will be unforgettable. All right, let's jump in. Here is the first technique to become a great storyteller, and it's called set the scene, make it visual. If you want people to care about your story, they need to see it in their minds. The more vivid your description, the more immersed your audience will be. Let's start with a weak example. Last weekend, I went hiking with some friends. Now, that tells us what happened, but it doesn't make us feel like we're there, does it? Let's make it better. Last weekend, I was standing at the edge of a mountain trail, looking down at the endless green valley below. The air was crisp, and the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. I took a deep breath, adjusting the straps on my backpack, and thought, all right, let's do this. See how much more vivid that is. You can almost feel the breeze and see the valley. This makes your story come alive. When you set the scene, don't just tell us where you are, show us. Use sensory details, like what you're hearing, feeling, or even smelling, to really paint a picture for your audience. The second technique is, get straight to the action. A common mistake is spending too much time explaining unnecessary details before getting to the good stuff. For example, here's a slow start. So before I tell you what happened, let me explain. I had been planning this trip for months, and I knew it was going to be exciting, but I had no idea just how crazy things were about to get. Now, at this point, your audience might already be losing interest. So instead, get straight to the point. Here's a better version. I was halfway up the mountain when I heard a crack. I froze. The rock beneath my foot shifted, and suddenly, I was sliding backward, straight toward the edge. See the difference? We're right into the action. No fluff. Just straight into the moment that makes you sit up and pay attention. So the key here is to skip the setup and jump into the heart of the story. That way, you immediately hook your audience and keep them wanting more. The third technique you want to use to become a great storyteller is what I call share your thoughts, let us inside your head. The best stories aren't just about what happens, they're about how you feel while it's happening. And that's why sharing your inner thoughts is so powerful. For instance, here's a pretty basic version. I got on stage and started speaking. Sure, we know what you did, but it doesn't really connect on a personal level, does it? Let's try again. As I stepped onto the stage, my brain was racing. Oh no, why did I sign up for this? My hands were shaking and my mouth was dry. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Now, we're not just watching, you've brought us inside the moment. We're feeling the nerves with you, and that makes it way more engaging. Whenever you tell a story, ask yourself, what was I thinking at that exact moment? Then share it. It's that simple. The fourth technique I want you to use is what I call show emotions, don't just tell them. It's tempting to just say how you felt, like, I was really angry when my friend canceled our plans. But instead of just telling us you were angry, show us how that anger looked or felt. For example, I clenched my fists and took a deep breath before replying. Are you serious right now? My voice was calm, but inside I could feel the heat rising. See how much more real that sounds. We can see the emotion instead of just being told it. Or take excitement. Instead of saying, I was excited, you could say, my heart was racing and I couldn't stop smiling. It felt like my whole body was buzzing with energy. That paints a much clearer picture, right? So, whenever you're telling a story, think about how you can show what you're feeling rather than just saying it. And the fifth but not last technique is use dialogue. Let us hear the moment finally. Let's talk about dialogue. Instead of summarizing conversations, let us actually hear what people said. Here's a weak version. My friend told me he was really upset about what happened. Not bad, but it's not very engaging. Let's make it better. He looked at me, his eyes wide. I can't believe you did that. What were you thinking? Now, we're not just hearing about the conversation, we're in it. Dialogue makes the moment come to life. And don't worry, your dialogue doesn't need to be perfect or formal. Real conversations are messy. People interrupt, change their minds, and speak in fragments, so keep it natural. All right, I promised you a bonus tip, so here it is, the loop effect. And with this, you're not just getting 5 storytelling techniques, you're getting 6. This one can truly take your stories to the next level. So, have you ever watched a movie or YouTube video that started with something dramatic or unexpected, but they didn't explain it right away? Instead, they made you wait, and by the end, everything clicked? Well, that's the loop effect in action. It's a simple but powerful trick. You start with something intriguing, a little teaser or mystery, but instead of explaining everything up front, you leave some questions unanswered. And that's what keeps people hooked. A storytelling mistake you don't want to make. Let's say you're telling a story about getting stranded in a foreign country. A lot of people would start like this. Let me tell you about the time I almost got stranded in a foreign country. It's okay, but it doesn't really pull you in. There's no tension, no urgency. Now, here's a much better way to open that same story. I was standing at the airport, staring at my empty backpack. My passport was missing. My flight was leaving in 10 minutes. And at that moment, I had no idea how I was going to get home. See the difference? Now, instead of just stating what happened, you're throwing the audience straight into the moment. They can feel the panic. And most importantly, they're thinking, wait, how did this happen? What's going to happen next? And that curiosity is what keeps them engaged. How to use this in a YouTube video. Here's another way to use it, especially if you're making content for YouTube. Imagine you're about to share a lesson about mistakes. You could start by saying, last year I made the biggest mistake of my life. That's fine, but it's not quite enough to make people need to hear the rest. Instead, try this. I made the biggest mistake of my life last year. And the worst part, I didn't even realize it until it was too late. I'll tell you what happened in a second. But first, let's talk about why mistakes like these are so common. See what just happened. Now, instead of just jumping into the lesson, you've planted a question in the audience's mind. They need to know, what was the mistake? How did it go wrong? And they'll stick around to find out. So now you don't just have 5 storytelling techniques, you have 6. Let's quickly recap. The first technique, set the scene, make it visual. The second technique, get straight to the action, pull people into the moment. The third technique, share your thoughts, let us inside your head. The fourth technique, show emotions, don't just tell them, make us feel them. The fifth technique, use dialogue, let us hear the moment unfold. And now the sixth technique, the loop effect, keep your audience hooked by opening with curiosity. Now it's your turn. Think about a story that stuck with you. What made it so memorable? Was it the emotions, the details, or maybe the way it kept you guessing? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear it. And if this video helped you, give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. You won't want to miss the upcoming videos where we dive even deeper into storytelling techniques and how to use them to grow your influence online. Go out there and start sharing your incredible stories. See you soon.